If there's a particular sector of the market that we've seen a huge explosion of cars in of late, then it's the small, compact, all-electric SUV. And just over the last 12 months, we've seen quite a few new players come into this market sector. Of course, we've had Renault with the brilliant new 4 E-Tech, we've had BYD with the Atto 2, there's Skoda's Elrock, there's Kia's EV3, there's the Ford Puma Gen E, there's the BYD Atto 2, and loads more, and there's more still to come. Now, this is an important market, as I say. 1 in every 5 new cars sold in Europe today is one of these small compact SUVs. So if there's this many cars in that market sector, how do you stand out? Well, manufacturers have to play to their key strengths. Take Renault, for instance, with the 4 E-Tech. The key strength of that car is practicality blended with that sort of retro-futuristic styling that has nods to Renaults of the past. BYD, the Atto 2, it's all about the tech with BYD. Ford, well, that's just Ford, you know, the familiarity with the brand name. But there's another new player about to enter into this market, and it's really playing with 2 key strengths that as a brand it has in abundance in this new model. And that brand is Citroën, and the car is this, the new ë-C3 Aircross. And what are the 2 key attributes that this car has in absolute abundance, probably better than everyone else? Well, I'd keep on watching if I was you, because this is quite a special little car because of those 2 key factors. Welcome to this week's road test review, welcome to the new Citroën ë-C3 Aircross, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, as I say, I can't really stress enough the importance of this market sector, this B segment compact SUV. It is fast becoming the sort of default family car of choice. Now, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, your entry point in terms of price into this market sector had to be somewhere between £30,000 and £35,000. But even that now seems quite expensive, because when Renault hit the market with the new 4 E-Tech, they became quite aggressive with its pricing, just as they had done with their 5 Super Mini. But I don't think aggressive is a strong enough word to describe how Citroën have priced their new C3 Aircross. And that's just one of the many key attributes that this car has. What are the others? Well, let's find out, shall we? But as always, let's take a brief look at the main points in the car before we start the full review. So the new C3 Aircross is Citroën's entry point into the very competitive B SUV market, and is obviously based on their well-received C3 Super Mini that it shares its smart car platform with. The car is offered with multi-energy drivetrains, petrol, hybrid, and obviously, as we have here, a full battery electric vehicle. Like its small hatchback sibling, the ë-C3 Aircross uses a 44 kWh LFP battery that can offer up to 188 miles of range according to WLTP tests. But it can also be had with an extended range option that has a 54 kWh battery for a range of up to 249 miles. The car comes with just a single motor offering 113 horsepower and 2 trim specifications here in the UK. And prices start at just £23,000 and go up to £27,000 depending on model chosen before the UK government grant. Yes, you heard that right, £23,000 before the new electric car grant is put in place. So obviously value for money is one of those key attributes that the new ë-C3 Aircross has. But does it deliver on the rest? Well, the only way we can find out is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle, the AutoEV one. And if you think the Citroën's value for money, well, the AutoEV road test, that's free. So as always, we're going to start with how the car looks, and it would be easy, but dare I suggest unkind to suggest that the Aircross is just sort of a long wheelbase version of the ë-C3 hatchback. There's a bit more to it than that. They have properly designed this more as an SUV style of vehicle, so it does have those SUV-esque styling cues that you would expect, and dare I suggest that buyers do like. Of course, Citroën's design has taken on from the Ollie concept that we saw back, what, 3 years ago now. So of course the three element lights that you can see here, LED headlamps featuring on the car, the new big chevron in the centre, and of course the chevrons either side of that then meet in the middle through this black strip here. 6 colours available on the car, including this dark green, which I think is called Montana green, which is lovely, I think. And depending on the trim level, if you go for you go for the Max model, which this one is, which is the range topper, you can have it with the geotone finish. So you can either have a black or a white roof, depending obviously on the colour you go for. I think it looks really good. I really do. I like that. But you can see down the bottom, there's much more, as I say, of a pronounced, more SUV-esque sort of like look to the car. You know, with this sort of like titanium grey sort of like sides to it, this almost sort of skid plate look to it. But again, that sort of chevron finish to the front there, some nice scallops across the bonnet as well, which reminds me a bit of the C4 model, which is a real favourite of mine as well. But it just feels a bit more taller, a bit more butch, a little bit more bigger. But as I say, it doesn't look out of proportion, which you'll see as we walk down the side of the car. As I say, it's not just they've taken a C3 and stretched it. They've made the car sort of like blend into its new segment really well, I think. And I think it's a really distinctive looking car, which is exactly what a Citroën should be. It should be distinctive, it should stand out for the right reasons, obviously. But I really think that the C3 Aircross does stand out for those right reasons. You see what I mean about that sort of in proportion design of it? It's not just like a stretched C3, it just seems to work. 4.39 metres long, which is up on the old C3 Aircross, because that was 4.16 metres long. So if you've got one of those old ones, this is a much bigger car. And here's the other interesting thing with it, although you can't have it on an electric car, I will talk about it. If you go for a petrol or a hybrid, you can have this with 7 seats. Can't have it in the electric car because the battery takes up too much space underneath. But a 7-seater B-segment SUV with a hybrid drivetrain for, you know, mid-20s. Phenomenal. 17-inch alloy wheels are standard across the range, so there's 2 trim levels. There's the Plus lead-in car and then the Max, which this one is, but both get these 17-inch diamond turned alloy wheels. Phenomenal. 2.6 metre long wheelbase, so that gives a lot of space on the inside of the car. And of course, like the smaller hatchback sibling, you get this sort of like chevron style black plastic wheel arch extensions here. But of course, because they just come out that little bit there, they give that sort of more rugged sort of butch look to the car. I just think it looks right. Of course, you get the E-badge if you go for the electric one. You've got some nice sill protection down the side there. Just a single motor car. There's no all-wheel drive version of it. So if you want an all-wheel drive car in this sector, not really anyone does it. You have to go for a hybrid Jeep Avenger or something like that, but most people aren't going to need it. But some nice sill protection down the side there, so that keeps it nice and practical and, dare I suggest, durable. You've got these beautifully sculpted roof rails here. These aren't load bearing, however, but you can option up transverse roof bars on the car. So if you need more space, Citroën offer a 500 litre roof box for the car, but obviously you have to put the bars across first. This is interesting. You get these U-clip things down here. I think that's what they call them, or is that Dacia? Anyway, whatever it is, you get these little clip-in features here. This one's and this one's that sort of champagne gold finish. There's some on the front as well, but you can change these. You can go into your local Citroën dealer and change them out if you want to, I don't know, maybe white ones to go with this type of cat. That's quite nice, makes you personalise a bit more. Privacy glass on the Max model. They don't hide the rear handle, it's a proper big door handle, which I am a big fan of that. But as I say, I think it looks right. I think it's a proper, practical family SUV. And it just looks proper. And look at it round the back. Look how upright it is. I mean, that's going to be brilliant for practicality, isn't it? That's exactly what you want. Of course, you get your 3-element LED rear lights on the car as well. Your big Citroën double chevron across there. And of course, again, the black plastic trim between the lights, again, that denote the chevron as well as they come into the centre there. Obviously, again, a little E-badge to let you know you've got the electric one rather than maybe a hybrid, and of course the Aircross across the bottom there. I'm pleased they put Aircross there, not Citroën, because obviously you know it's a Citroën. So I do like the fact that they've used the Aircross in the lettering, the model designation rather than the brand. Reverse camera, reversing sensors. Again, the chevron in this like rear sort of skid plate area there. Rear wiper, nice big spoiler. What's not to like? I really like it. I think they've done a great job with this. Doesn't really matter what I think though, does it? Because I'm not buying one, but you might be. Maybe you've got the old model and you're thinking of an upgrade. Now they've got the Aircross model out. What do you think? If that's the case, what do you think of this new sort of style of the Citroën? You know, with the sort of like Ollie style rear lights and the more sort of like squared off look to it and this SUV-esque vibe that it's got going on. Do you like it? Do you prefer the older model? Would you have preferred to see them do something completely different, like maybe a little MPV or something like that? Or does the fact that you can have it with 7 seats in the hybrid and petrol model really tempt you maybe to move back towards combustion engine rather than the electric model? Whatever it is, whatever your thoughts are, please put them down in the comment section down below, because that's what it's there for. Now, a family SUV needs to be practical for the family, and that's exactly what you get with the C3 Aircross. 460 litres of boot space. And remember, the hatchback C3 is 310 litres. As I say, if you go for the electric model, you can't have it with the 7 seats at all, because also there's a battery to be housed within the car as well. And in fairness, with the 7 seats in place, there is no space in the back there. I'll put some B-roll up over there, but maybe it might be helpful for some people. It might be useful, that car, for some of you, if you have grandkids, or you know, occasionally to take, you know, sort of your kids' friends around with you or something like that. But it's not available in the electric model. Okay, you've got a standard split fold 60/40 rear bench, and if you fold that down, it takes the total capacity up to 1,600 litres. It is big, this car, in terms of the interior volume, thanks to that big sort of boxy shape of it. Now, at the moment, it does look like it's quite shallow like that, but that floor you can actually drop down, so there's a really big bit of storage underneath this floor. And then if you drop that down, you've then got even more height with it as well, which is fantastic. And as I say, if you need even more space than that, then as I say, Citroën do an option of roof bars across with a 500 litre roof box as well. Maybe the only downside is you do have quite a big sill to sort of like lift stuff into, and I don't have my suitcases to show you, unfortunately, because I'm on the UK media launch of the car. But as I say, that's maybe the only downside. There is quite a big sort of like, you know, rear lip to lift stuff over, but you're going to get that with any SUV style of car. And if you've got that floor in its highest position, in fairness, if I put it back there, you can see the load entry is nice and flat. So in terms of practicality, this is really ticking an awful lot of boxes, I think, for a lot of families. The doors open really wide in the back as well, which is going to be key again if you're thinking of, you know, loading small children into back, maybe they're in car seats, or, you know, elderly passengers, you know, stepping across into the car. One of the benefits you get with this more SUV style of driving, this SUV style of car, is for, you know, get entry and exit out of the car. So the fact that the doors open wide and it's a nice height for people just to step across into, that's going to make a big difference. Now, sitting in the back, what does Citroën tell us? Well, they tell us that in terms of its class, the car has roughly about 80mm more legroom, knee room, than available in some of the competitors, and about 20-odd mm extra of elbow room, which is, well, good in fairness. The only thing I would say is you do feel that, you know, the floor is pushed up ever so slightly. You know, if you sit dead on straight like that with your feet flat on the floor, you can see I've got that more kind of knees up style of sort of seating position. But in fairness, you don't sit like that. You're going to sort of start to slouch and find yourself a bit comfortable. And there's plenty of space around about you for rear passengers. You know, that's my driving position at 5'8". I've got plenty of space around about me. Now, in terms of storage, you've got the little pockets at the tops of the seats there that you can drop, the kids can drop their mobiles into, or you've got the pockets down there, you know, for bigger items such as, you know, iPads or Kindles. There are door bins as well that you can drop a water bottle into. There's a relatively flat floor. Now, this is the key thing with it's the Stellantis Smart Car, not Smart Car as in the brand Smart, but Smart Car platform, which is a multi-energy platform for this size of car across Stellantis. But it's been designed very much with the electric cars first and foremost, and then sort of like redeveloped for internal combustion engine. So some of the compromises that you get going the other way aren't evident here. So there is a relatively flat floor across. So you could get a third person sat in the back here if they were, dare to suggest, slightly smaller stature. Massive amount of headroom, and again, that boxy styling helps with that. But look at them, I could wear a hat in here and not feel cramped. This is fantastic. There's 2 USB-C charging ports there. There's also a 12-volt socket down there. There's only really 2 things that I can really fault it for. First of all, there's no central armrest with cup holders, but then there isn't really an awful lot of these B-segment SUVs. And I'm still not a fan of these silly zips with the ISOFIX points. They have seemed to have improved the zip itself, so there's a much chunkier actual zip, so they don't feel as if they're going to break off in your fingers, but I still don't think it's the best solution. otherwise, I can't really fault it in terms of the style of car that it is. I'm not going to talk too much about the comfort of these seats, because we're going to talk about that when we move into the front of the car, which is the other key attribute that Citroën are really focusing on with this car. So we'll jump in the front and we'll talk a bit more about that then. But in terms of rear space, phenomenal. Now you can see there's a lot of familiarity with the ë-C3 Super Mini. If you've watched a review of that car, we've reviewed that car and we've also done a twin test with it against the BYD Dolphin Surf. So if you've watched those videos, thank you very much. And it's probably a good time to say, maybe, you know, if you wouldn't mind being a subscriber to the AutoEV channel, that'd be really nice. And turn on your notifications so you get, you know, alerted when the next video is uploaded, and like and comment and stuff like that, because that's how YouTube works for us. Anyway, if you've watched those videos, you'll maybe be quite familiar with this, or dare I suggest you've maybe bought a C3. You'll see what we're talking about here. I really like this. This is the thing, you know, I mentioned this in another video. There's a thing, there was a worry with me with Stellantis, the group obviously that owns Citroën, Peugeot, Vauxhall, you know, all those kind of cars, that the cars were going to lose their identities. You know, they're all just going to be identikits, you know, badge engineering gone mad. But Citroën, you know, definitely not. You know, this doesn't look like a Peugeot in here. It doesn't look like a Vauxhall in here. Interesting, I'm also going to be driving the Vauxhall Frontera, which is another new entrant in this marketplace. I'm going to be driving that next week. I don't know when these videos will come out, but that's the car I'm driving next week, along with the new Suzuki e-Vitara. Anyway, that's for them. But as I say, it's not just a Vauxhall or a Peugeot with a Citroën steering wheel on it. Citroën have redesigned this interior to be very much a Citroën. And this is something I really, really like about this car. Citroën talk about having a head-up display, and it sort of does, because they've done a little bit similar. I'm saying it's not Peugeot, they've done something similar to Peugeot, and Toyota have done the same. They've put the instrument panel right at the base of the windscreen and quite high up. So you don't need the separate entity of another display in the middle of the windscreen. You're actually looking straight ahead at the instrument panel, which is where you would normally find a normal head-up display in any other car. So that is your instrument panel that runs across, you know, the top of the dashboard there. And it's really clear and it's really concise, and all the information that you're going to need is easy to do at a glance, because it's quite big and bold in its font. So the battery percentage, you know, your speed, the gear you're in, whether you're in brake regen mode or not, your outside temperature, you know, your range left, all that's all up there. So you've got that there. Then all the secondary information that you might want is housed within this infotainment screen here, this 10.25-inch infotainment screen, which again is not sort of down here, it's up here, but doesn't interrupt the view of that dash as well. So I really like that. I also just really like the design of it, the fact you've got this fabric across the dashboard rather than just having loads of grey plastic or black plastic. It just lifts the car up a little bit. The only downside when it comes to the materials is there's still a lot of evidence of shiny gloss piano black, because it's round the air vents and it's down the centre console. I just wish they'd get rid of it completely, but you know, there we go, that's what it's got. You do have, as I said, a sort of Peugeot-esque small steering wheel, which is something you do have to get used to. It's slightly flattened off at bottom and top, do the right way around, with two spoke. You soon get used to it, in fairness, once you start using it, and it also helps the car with its manoeuvrability, because it's quite a small wheel to twirl around. And you get these two big physical buttons on either side, and in the corners are each sort of, you know, the functions you get for them. So cruise control, you know, over on this side here, and changing, you know, sort of like, you know, various bits of configuration, you know, to look at your driver assistant settings or your user settings. The menu's all up there, and that's done by there. And then over this side is your media control and your telephone on that side. Okay, a really nice thing Citroën are doing as well, and I assume the rest of Stellantis will follow suit as well, which I noticed in another car of theirs I've been driving from Fiat. The ADAS systems you want to turn off, such as the lane keep assist and the traffic sign recognition, they're just buttons over by your right knee. So you don't have to go into the menu to turn them off. They're just two buttons over here. So if you want to turn off the speed limit warning, you just press and hold a button there, and that turns it off. And it's the same with the lane keep assist. Just press and hold to deactivate, and that's it off. Fantastic, thank you, you know, for putting it onto buttons. I've commented on sort of like Stellantis's and Citroën's obviously infotainment system just recently in a couple of other tests. I really like the simplicity of it. You know, I'm starting to really favour these screens that are quite simple in their layout and their ease of use. Maybe it's an age thing, I don't know. But to navigate it, it is very easy. You know, go into just your radio there, here's your phone, it's got a very loud click. Navigation. Now, it depends what model you go for. Each car gets Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you move up to the Max model and it gets an inbuilt navigation with 3D mapping and stuff. I think it's like a TomTom from memory. So it's a good, well-known integrated nav system. So if you prefer using the integrated nav rather than things like Waze or Google Maps, it's the Max model that gets it, and you do get quite a nice system. It's nice and easy to use. There's also something else to talk about with regards to what an app that you get with Citroën. You'll have to bear with me because I wrote it down and I knew I would forget the name of it because they just told us about it this morning. You get 12-month subscription to eRoutes. That's what it is. So that's a mapping system. It's an app that you use on your phone. So a bit like you can do with a lot of manufacturers' apps, you know, you can sit and plan a route out and send it to the car. So you sit in the morning, having your breakfast, plan your route out, plan your day out, send it to the car. But it will also keep up to date with things such as, you know, if there's charging needed on your route, it will know if the chargers are in use and, you know, what chargers are working, and it will also communicate with the car to let it know its state of charge, and then obviously alter it depending on that as well. So you get 12-month subscription with that with each new car as well. So that's quite a handy thing to have. But as I say, I really just like the simplicity of this system. I mean, this is it pretty much. You know, settings, display, devices, there's your home screen there. You get your radio, your phone, and your navigation, and then you've got to slide across one screen and it's Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. There's a volume button on the side for your passenger, and there's volume on the steering wheel, on this side for you as the driver. How simple is that? Yeah, even I could work something like that. So I love that. Your climate control system, nicely, is then physical buttons, which are down here. So again, it's nice the fact that they've moved back to physical buttons, and they're really nicely integrated, nicely designed. Yeah, okay, I've just said I don't like the glossy piano black, but you know, that's fair enough. The fact the physical buttons is good. And if you go for the Max model, which this one is, you get heated front seats, a heated steering wheel, and a heated windscreen. On a car of this stature and price, phenomenal. So that's all there. So that's nice and easy to use. So you get your climate control system there. All that's just really your infotainment and your settings, and then your driver's displays up there. Really simple, all in a really nice looking dashboard. The other thing you get with the Max is you get a wireless charging pad for your mobile. That goes in there. I've got my big iPhone, that fits neatly in there. There's two cup holders there. Sorry, I left my water bottle in my other car. As I say, I'm not so keen on the glossy piano black plastic. And then there's the usual Stellantis Group transmission selector, the toggle selector down here, and the button for park and your brake regen. There's a USB-C charging port just back here. There's a little tray here just behind the electric park brake, and you've got a relatively deep but narrow centre cubby box, but you would certainly get a family pack of Starburst in there without too much of a problem. There's also relatively deep door bins, and you've got the usual half glove box that you get with Stellantis products because they can't be bothered to remove the fuse box in the car. Right, that's the interior in terms of its design. As I say, it's very familiar to the C3 Super Mini, but it just works as a family car. But I do want to talk about the comfort, okay? Because this car gets it's part of Citroën's Advanced Comfort Programme. Now, a lot of that's to do with suspension, but it also includes the seats. These seats are absolutely wonderful. I love these seats. At first, they look like they're really overstuffed, especially on the cushion rather than the backrest, and they're sort of quilted. It has an additional layer in the seat underneath the actual covering as well, which is effectively like a memory foam mattress. Okay, so as you sort of like sit on it, it molds itself to your bum, effectively, and your back as you're sitting there. And it supports you in all the right places. And obviously they've done a huge amount of research with this type of thing, and the type of density of foam and all the rest of it, it supports you so well. It's so comfortable, it really is. And along with the hydraulic cushions in the suspension system, the ride quality is just on another level to anything else in the class. So again, from a family car point of view, they don't do a sporty one because nobody wants a sporty family car really, and if you do, that's what you end up buying. This is a proper sensible family hold-all. This is for taking the kids to school, going on family holidays, picking the in-laws up, chucking the dog in the back and going for a walk. But it's comfortable if you do have to do the long drive in it as well. And that's what Citroën are doing better than anyone else at the moment. I have to say, the outside of the car I love. You know, I really think it looks a great looking car. But the inside, I just think this, in terms of practical and how it all works, and you know, as you see, everyday usability, which is what you have to think about in a car. It's all very well doing fancy designs and all the rest of it, but your everyday usability of it, this thing just knocks spots off plenty of other cars in the class. And I think it's another winner from Citroën. My only thing is, just get rid of this shiny piano black plastic and you've got one of the best in the business. Other than that, fantastic. Now you get the option of 2 batteries on the ë-C3 Aircross. There's the standard 44 kilowatt hour one that comes on the smaller hatchback, which should give a range of round about 188 miles according to WLTP tests. And that's going to be perfect if you live more in an urban environment, or maybe the edge of a city, or you're just using it for local running around with the occasional longer journey. However, if you do need more than that, Citroën will offer you the option of an extended range car, which gets the 54 kilowatt hour battery that we see in some of the other Stellantis Group products. Now that takes the WLTP maximum mileage up to 249 miles. So again, so like pretty much bang on class standard from that point of view. Now Citroën quote a 20 to 80% charge for their DC charging, because it maxes out at 100 kilowatts, and 20 to 80% should be done in about 26 minutes. So if it's a usual 10 to 80% that we quote, bank on it being just maybe over that 30-minute mark that we always say is about right. But given the size of the battery, they're both relatively small. Charging up from flat to full from a 7 kilowatt wall box is going to be round about 8 to 9 hours on both batteries. So there was a little bit of me was wondering whether this was just going to feel like a slightly bigger Citroën ë-C3 when you get it out on the road. As I say, I understand, you look at it and you go, that's what it is, it's a bigger ë-C3. Put it this way, all the stuff you love about, or I love, and if you own one, that you'll love about the ë-C3 is in the ë-C3 Aircross as well. This is a really good car. Now, in terms of numbers, you'll look at it and go, that's not that impressive. You know, it's a single motor car, it's 113 horsepower, it does 0 to 60 in 12.9 seconds. It's fair to say you're not going to be buying an ë-C3 Aircross if you're interested in doing a sub 7 minute lap of the Nürburgring, okay? However, if you just want to take your kids to school in the morning, go on the family holiday, go and pick your in-laws up, go and do sort of like, you know, the weekly shop, all those kind of things, listen on, because there's a lot to love about this car. Now, the first thing we're going to talk, we talked about Citroën's key strengths, you know, at the start of the film. And the first key strength that Citroën have is ride quality and ride comfort. If you've watched any of my Citroën reviews before, apologies, I am going to get very dull and very boring, because I'm now going to talk about hydraulic bump stops. If you haven't watched any of my Citroën reviews before, get comfortable. Now, what normally happens in a car is when you've got you know, a suspension system in the corner of a car, and you've got a damper, when that damper goes into a full compression, what then happens is, as it, you know, so as you hit a speed bump, you know, the damper does this, you know, the wheel moves up, the damper compresses up, and it hits what's called a bump stop. That bump stop is where that movement stops, hence its name. What then happens is the energy that that creates is then dissipated through that bump stop, which is attached to the car. In other words, that's the jolt that you feel as a driver or passenger when you hit a bump in a car, okay? That's what happens. Citroën have done something quite clever. Very simple, but very clever. They've made hydraulic bump stops. They're effectively cushions. So when that compression happens and it hits the bump stop, it doesn't just stop. There's then movement in that bump stop to dissipate the energy, so you don't feel it going into the structure of the car. And it's the same on a full decompression. So in other words, if you go over a pothole and the wheel drops into it, again, it reaches the end of its travel and you get bang. It hits the bump stop on the way down. That energy's transferred through the structure of the car and then into you as an occupant of that car. Not in the Citroën, because that bump stop has hydraulic movement in it, and it will move and dissipate the energy. Such a simple thing, but so effective. No, it's not, they call it the magic carpet ride, but it's not the same as Citroëns of old. If you've driven an old BX or a Xanti or whatever with the hydrogen pneumatic stuff, it's not like that. It's all done through simple mechanical things rather than actual hydraulics. But it's just really, really clever, and it does make a big difference. I like the fact they've not gone silly and put massive big, like 19-inch alloy wheels on the car. You know, you've got some squidge in the tires as well. All of that makes for a car that's just really comfortable. And that's not where it stops, because as part of that advanced comfort program, you've also got these seats, which is, if you were listening earlier, if you're paying attention, have like a memory foam layer in them as well. So they help absorb some of that energy as well. And of course they cushion you and they position you just right in the seat, like a memory foam mattress. So what you end up with is a really comfortable family car. And isn't that what you want from a family car? Something that's spacious, easy to drive and comfortable. Well, guess what? All of those things is this car. It's comfortable, it's spacious as we saw, and now we're going to talk about how easy it is to drive. Because you get in it, you turn it on with a key, by the way, and you put it in drive, and you press the accelerator. That's it. There's no drive modes, there's no, you know, levels of brake regen to set up, none of that. And if you want to turn off things like the speed limit warning and the lane keep assist, it's a button. You just press the button down here and it turns it off. How simple is that? This is what I'm talking about. You know, key core values and strengths that Citroën have come up with this car is all the simple stuff. It's like somebody's actually sat down and properly thought, what do buyers really, really want out of our cars? What can we do that's going to make people buy our cars over everything else? Shall we just make it comfortable, spacious and easy to drive? Let's do that. I'll tell you what, brilliant. Whoever's thought of that, give them a raise, because it's bloody brilliant. No, it's not the quickest thing in the world, but does it matter? No. The other thing I would say, if I am going to pick a bit of a fault with it, and I will, it's not the most engaging car to drive. The steering is quite light. Now that's good for round about town, or these little narrow streets round about the countryside that I'm in at the moment. Or if you're going into Sainsbury's, it's easy to park, and you sit high in it and you can see out of it, and it's a really easy car to sort of like manoeuvre into sort of like parking bays and stuff like that. So that's excellent. Yeah, that's the really good thing about it. No, it's not the most precise thing in the world if you want to string a set of bends together, but are you going to be buying this type of car if that's what you're after? Probably not. You're going to be buying something like, you know, a Skoda Elroq VRS if that's your bag. Well, you've got to pay for that privilege, but this is just a sensible family car. This is quite narrow. I'm coming down here. I don't know where I am. I'm somewhere in Buckinghamshire, but this car's so easy to manoeuvre down these little narrow streets. You sit really high in it in this sort of SUV-esque driving position that I was saying earlier, comfortably, with this small steering wheel ahead of you, which makes it really easy to manoeuvre. And you get a great view of the bonnet ahead of you. You can see the end of the bonnet. You know, I turn round, I can see the end of the car from there. And when I look in the mirrors, I can see down the sort of like the flat sides of it. It's just an easy car. And that's what I mean. I don't care that it's not that quick. I genuinely don't, because I wouldn't be buying this type of car if I wanted a fast car. See, that drain hole cover there, didn't even notice it. The only way I knew it was a drain hole cover because I saw it as I came round the corner. The brakes, that was one thing that I was really quite interested in with this car, because I've always found the Stellantis cars, obviously, which Citroën obviously part of, they've always been a bit spongy on the brake. The brake pedals always had this deadness at the top, so as you apply the pedal, it felt like you were pushing against a sort of like a wet sponge, and then nothing would happen, then all of a sudden everything grabbed. They've changed that here. This is much nicer in terms of the brake. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's the sharpest brakes in the world, but actually it is quite a decent, you know, sort of like braking sort of like system that's on the car. You push down on the pedal and it stops. This is a great car. They've done an absolute blinder with this car. As I say, they've I keep saying it, they've played to their key strengths with it. That's all they needed to do, was build an easy to use, everyday family style of car. And if they could make it comfortable, if they could make it spacious and easy to drive, then they've ticked all the boxes for as far as I'm concerned. The fact that they've made it all of that for the price they have, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is just the icing on the cake. This is an absolute brilliant small electric family car. Right, so we know how it looks. We know how far it goes on a charge now. We know how comfortable the car is. So all of these attributes that we've been used to with Citroën's electric products, they're here in this car as well. I had to write the prices down because that's the next thing that we're going to go on and talk about in terms of the value proposition, which is key for Citroën. Citroën talk about building the right cars at the right price. They say they're not elitist, they are popularist, and I think that's a really brave thing to say for a car manufacturer, because most of them have big aspirations as who they will appeal to. Citroën know who their customer base is. They know that they are just everyday families, working people that obviously, you know, money can be tight for people, let's be honest, and therefore they're not going to overprice them. They're the right cars for the right price, and I think the Citroën ë-C3 Aircross is by far the right price when it comes to cars in this class. So let's talk about this. Now, normally I don't use a notebook, but there's a thing I need to discuss here, because obviously in the UK we've now got this electric car grant that's back in play, and that will have a bearing on the price of the ë-C3 Aircross. So that's why I've had to write these prices down, so forgive me. So there's two models, as I say, there's the Plus and the Max, okay? And within those two trim ranges, you get the choice of the two batteries, either the standard range or the extended range, okay? So the list price, which is what I normally quote, for the Plus standard range, which is your starter for 10, is £23,095. However, when you apply the UK government's electric car grant to that, which is £1,500, it drops it to £21,595. That's phenomenal value for money, considering what you get. You know, you still get, you know, the alloy wheels, you still got a car that looks like this with the roof rails. It's not a basic car. It's a good, well-spec'd car. Family SUV at £21,500. If you need a bit more range, then you jump up obviously to the Plus extended range car, which is £24,995 before the grant, and it drops it down to £23,495 after it. If you want more spec, you have to go for this Max model. So that will get you things such as the heated seats in the front, the heated steering wheel, heated screen, a few other little bits and pieces on the ADAS systems and things like that. That comes in on the standard range at £25,095. After the grant, £23,595. Extended range version of that car is £26,995, but then after grant, £25,495. I just think Citroën have just judged this so well, I really do. And in terms of this class of car, for the type of car that it is, for what you get as standard, for everything else that comes with Citroën, those brand values of comfort, sustainability. They talk about the sort of like the four key values for Citroën: simple, sustainable, comfortable, and daring. That's exactly what this car is, I think. And if you want even more value for money when it comes to your overall whole life ownership costs, it comes with Citroën's 8-year care package, which means, a bit like Toyota, if you service the car every year at your local Citroën dealer, then they extend the warranty every time for another year, up to 8 years of ownership. Absolutely phenomenal value for money, ownership, whole life costs. Well done, Citroën. You've absolutely judged this bang on. Now, I've swapped my notebook for my iPad now because I've made a note of all the competition for this car. Well, no, I haven't, because I would be pages and pages and pages if we had to list all of the competitors for this car. But so I've made a note of the key ones here, and they are the cars that I mentioned right at the very start of the video. So things such as the Renault 4 E-Tech, the BYD Atto 2, the Ford Puma Gen E, the Suzuki e-Vitara. I'm going to be driving that car next week. And then, of course, its technical partner Toyota will have its version, the Urban Cruiser, which will be in this marketplace. But there is so many other cars here, you know, Jeep Avenger, Fiat 600, the Peugeot E208, Alfa Romeo Junior if you're really inclined in that sense. But there's one more key rival that I'm going to be driving next week, as I said earlier, depending obviously when this video comes out. but when I'm filming this, it's the following week I'm driving it, and that's Vauxhall's Frontera, which is going to offer a similar a lot of car. In terms of its price wise, it's also going to be similar, and from a brand as Vauxhall, which is obviously very recognisable, and maybe obviously a big seller here in the UK, and in terms of its price, it's going to be very, very similar. So it's going to have a bit of a battle on its hands in terms of the Vauxhall, but I think in terms of all those other key rivals, this is really, really winning. And I think where it's gone really, really won for me is ahead of cars such as the BYD Atto 2, because I just think this offers so much more than even BYD, and they were, seem to be quite sort of like key in terms of price. Even things such as the new JQ5, which we've tested as well, don't offer, I think, the list of attributes that you get with the ë-C3 Aircross at the price point of this car. I think this car's a real winner, I really do. So here's what we like, and also what we don't like about the new Citroën ë-C3 Aircross. Well, we really like its design. It's incredibly spacious for a family. It's got beautiful ride comfort. It's really well equipped for the money, and in talking of money, it offers incredible whole life ownership costs for families. We don't like, well, the standard range car with its sub 200 miles might not be enough for many, but of course you do have the option of the extended range. The performance is hampered by the size and weight of the car. You obviously don't have the 7-seat option when you go for the electric car, and perhaps it's not the most engaging car to drive. But is that important in this class of car? Yesterday I was driving a new Bentley, believe it or not, and this Bentley had optional extras that came to £45,000. Now think about that for a second. 45 grand purely on options. We've all got cost of living to think about these days. We've all got ever rising costs in our everyday lives. The cost of our mortgage, the cost of our utility bills, the cost of our food shopping, the cost of our kids. The last thing we need to be worrying about is the cost of a new car. But here's the thing, especially here in the UK, because £40,000 is now seen by the UK government as a luxury car, they attach a luxury car supplement to that. But £40,000 isn't a luxury car. £40,000 is an everyday family car. It's a Kia Sportage. There are some models of the Sportage that are over £40,000. For goodness sake, you can spend over £40,000 on a Vauxhall Astra these days. And this is what I was talking about right at the very, very start of this video. If you are a manufacturer coming into this sort of like market space, this B segment SUV, which is such a huge market here in Europe, how do you stand apart from all of those other manufacturers that are selling cars within that market space? How do you attract new buyers to buy your car rather than your neighbour's car? Well, what Citroën have done is they've concentrated on their key strengths. And one of their key strengths is value for money. And I'm not just talking about the list price, which is phenomenal, by the way. I'm talking about the whole life overall running costs of the car, the 8-year care package that Citroën now offer, how efficient the car is. But there's other key strengths with it as well, which is great to see. The fact that it is as well equipped as it is, the fact that it looks as nice as it does, the fact that it's as nice to drive as it is, the fact that it's as comfortable as it is, and the fact that it's just a spacious, everyday, every use family car. Citroën have played an absolute blinder with this car because they have stuck to those core strengths, those core attributes that as a brand they are renowned for. And that's why I think that the Citroën ë-C3 Aircross isn't just one of the best cars in its class, but it's also one of the best electric cars that you can buy today at any price. Thank you for watching another road test review here on AutoEV. Please make sure you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel if you don't mind, and once you've done that, turn on your notifications so that you get an alert when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you've enjoyed this week's review, and hopefully you have, then make sure you give it a little thumbs up for me, and of course, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the new Citroën ë-C3 Aircross. Would you have this over something like a Kia EV3 or a Skoda Elroq, which, let's be honest, are a lot more expensive? BYD Atto 2. Almost another £10,000 more than this. Is it £10,000 more of your money? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now remember, if you're into things such as social media, you'll find us across on the usual channels such as Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, LinkedIn. So please give us a follow there, because that certainly helps us as well. And if you're in the marketplace for a new electric car, well, it might not be a new electric car. Maybe you're thinking about, I don't know, a second-hand one. You know, they're good value for money now. What about a second-hand Citroën ë-C3? That's a great value for money electric family car. But you need to know a little bit more about it before you go and sign in the dotted line and give away your hard-earned cash. How do you find out? Well, here's how. Stay in the AutoEV homepage on our YouTube channel, and just at the top there you'll find a magnifying glass. If you type the name of the car you're interested in there, of course if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 6 years, then we've subjected it to the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric car. The incredible value for money, because it's free, AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I'll see you again soon.